Good evening and welcome to the September 25th, 2019 meeting of the San Francisco Board of Appeals. President Rick Swig will be the presiding officer tonight. He is joined by Commissioner Eduardo Santacana and Commissioner Daryl Honda. We expect Vice President Ann Lazarus shortly, and Commissioner Rachel Tanner is absent tonight. Is there anybody here for general public comment? Okay. Please approach.
All right, my name is Paul McGavin. I'm an expert in measuring and mitigating microwave radiation, and I can tell you that what's happening in San Francisco today is a disaster. And that's because the most people who are doing this work, including Mr. Duque from the city of San Francisco, doesn't quite understand what he's measuring or how he's measuring it. In fact, you guys don't even own the proper antenna for your radio frequency meter in order to give accurate information to the citizens who request it. You must understand that microwave radiation is a series of peaks of power, electrical power that goes through the air in millionths of a second. And then there's some off time and more millionths of a second. And it goes up very high and it comes down to zero. And very high and it comes down to zero. And you get maybe 20,000 of those in a second. Pulse after pulse, 24/7, 365. This is the definition of a poison. It's a toxin. How do we know? Study of this was assigned to the National Toxicology Program. They study poisons. And when they do, they study the total dose of poison that you get. But when we measure this, the wireless industry lobbied the FCC and made a little trick. And they said, hey, when we measure this, let's just talk about the rate of the poison coming at us, not the total poison that we get over time. Yeah. We'll base it on the rate only. And then when we do it, we're going to hide all those peaks, and we're going to only measure average, because average is going to be 1,000 times, 10,000 times lower than what your body actually experiences, which is 20,000 bullets a second at really high levels. So when you ever measure this for real, and your city must do this by buying the proper probe and going through the proper steps, half-hour measurements, 30-minute data logs, in order to show what's really going on with radio frequency microwave radiation. And when you do, maybe the understanding will now finally increase. But let me just give you a simple metaphor. All right, so President Swig, I'm going to ask you, today we're going to expose you to poison. You're going to have to drink one of these two beakers. Imagine in your hand, left beaker, right beaker. All I'm going to tell you is that I'm going to put poison into these beakers at 2 drops a second, both beakers. Which one do you want to drink?
Either.
This is your
Exactly. Okay. So what I want to say is that I'll give you the rest of the information, and I'll be done. 2 drops a second for 10 seconds, and 2 drops a second for 24 hours. First one, you have a smidge of poison. The next one is a full beaker. Which one do you want to drink now? You have to drink one, because we're putting these on the sidewalk in front of your house, so you're forcing people to drink one. You're going to drink the one with the smidge. That's driving past the cell phone tower, all right? The full beaker is living next to the cell phone tower. And if I'm on the 2nd or 3rd story, I'm drinking 5 beakers a day. That's what's really happening. But it's not being measured.
Thank you very much. I would invite you to please present your documentation to the Department of Health, who has been asked and mandated by this board to update their report of 2010 to current. And we have provided them copious data that we have collected from good members of the community to help in that matter, and yours would probably assist them greatly too. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I did reach out to Mr. Duque, who measures it, and we're going to recommend that he get the proper probe, and I did also make a call to Dr. Aragon, who's doing the work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else here for general public comment? We are now moving on to item number 4. This is a rehearing request for appeal number 19-070, subject property at 2620 Laguna Street. Ron Ratner, the appellant, is requesting a rehearing of appeal number 19-070, Ratner versus San Francisco Public Works, Bureau of Street Use and Mapping, decided August 28, 2019. At that time, the board voted 3-0 to 2, Vice President Lazarus and Commissioner Tanner absent, to deny the appeal and uphold the permit on the basis that it was properly issued. The determination holder is GTE MobileNet of California, LP. The permit description is construction of a personal wireless service facility in a zoning protected location. This is permit number 17WR-0252. And we will hear from Mr. Ratner first.
May I ask a preliminary question?
Sure.
I understood from your opening remarks that it would require 4 commissioners to grant my rehearing appeal.
That is correct.
And since 3 commissioners only are present, if I open my mouth, I've lost before I said a word. So
Well, sir, Mr. Ratner,
I request that my matter not be heard until Commissioner Lazarus arrives, because otherwise it's futile. I can't have my
sir, the procedure under the board rules is that if the vote of a missing commissioner would have made a difference, the matter will be continued for a full vote.
But it's not fair. It's impossible for 3 commissioners to grant my commission. That's
right.
Not a
but
fair
if 3 of the commissioners here tonight are in favor, or even if 2 are in favor, the matter will be continued so that the absent commissioners can participate in the vote.
Why can't we hold my appeal until after Commissioner Lazarus arrives? That would be much simpler, and then we won't have to get into all.
Commissioner Lazarus owns property within 500 feet of the subject property, so she is recusing herself from this item.
Oh.
So if you would like to go ahead and proceed pursuant to the board rules, if the vote of a missing commissioner would make a difference, the matter will be continued.
What?
Just go for it. You want a chair?
Thank you. I didn't mean to be impolite.
Not at all.
Before I retired 30 years ago, I was a practicing lawyer for many years.
It was an excellent question, Mr. Ratner.
And I'm concerned about those details.
Understandable. Thank you.
Good evening. This board denied my 2620 Laguna Street appeal by wrongly assuming that FCC regulations preempted all local health and safety jurisdiction. So based on newly discovered evidence, I'm again appealing a dangerous 7,000-watt Verizon cell tower atop a PG&E power pole adjoining about 300 apartments, housing many vulnerable people, including young children and pregnant women. I've attached to my rehearing brief a Verizon brochure showing its knowing pollution of our environment with hidden microwave carcinogens. This new document is an implied Verizon admission of pollution and a validation of thousands of scientific studies which have overwhelmingly shown that all wireless cell towers are invariable epicenters for cancer clusters and other serious and chronic health problems. All public agencies and employees are legally obligated to protect public health and safety and must not permit dangerous pollution which violates that duty. Moreover, justifiable fear of injury from pollutants can constitute criminal assault and battery, and scientifically untested experiments on vulnerable humans without their informed consent is an international Nuremberg crime against humanity. Contrary to this board's incorrect assumption, it does have jurisdiction to prevent further cell tower harm under San Francisco's fundamental right to protect the health and safety of its citizens. Thus, the California Supreme Court's T-Mobile decision emphatically affirmed San Francisco's right to regulate, quote, lines of or equipment on public rights-of-way that might cause negative health consequences or create safety concerns. Moreover, the 2003 San Francisco Precautionary Principle Ordinance applying to all city projects and purchases was never preempted by long outdated 1996 FCC health guidelines only regulating microwaves. Nor did FCC regulations ever preempt our constitutional rights against uncompensated taking of property or deprivation of human rights without due process of law. No San Franciscan wants to live near a cell tower antenna. We should not be forced to accept any more dangerous and unnecessary cell towers when fiber optics now afford much safer, faster, and economically preferable alternatives. All enduring moral traditions tell us to do no harm, a perennial golden rule. I urge this board to conscientiously follow that golden rule by enforcing the precautionary principle ordinance to prevent further irreparable injury to health and safety by another dangerous cell tower at 2620 Laguna Street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Welcome. Hi, my name is Cheryl Lee Hogan, President SWIG and Commissioners. On April 3, 2019, 7 separate cell tower appellants of a light pole antenna at 2298 Pacific Avenue filed with this appeal board a 64-page appeal brief, which I have here, with over 1,200 pages of attachments, which credibly accused Verizon and its representatives of fraud and possible crimes. That appeal was originally scheduled for hearing tonight, but on August 12, 2019, Verizon, via its Modus engineers, notified the appeal board that it was withdrawing its permit. So on August 13, 2019, the Board of Appeals administratively dismissed the appeal. Thereby, Verizon avoided a public hearing on 2298 Pacific's credible accusations of Verizon fraud and possible crimes in obtaining San Francisco cell tower permits. Before deciding tonight's appeal, I urge you to read carefully the 2298 Pacific brief and to discuss its credible accusations of Verizon fraud and probable crimes with the San Francisco District Attorney and City Attorney. And tonight, I support Ron Ratner's 2620 Laguna appeal on grounds cited in his briefs in the 2298 Pacific brief and in my 3529 Sacramento appeal brief. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank
Next speaker.
you.
Good evening, welcome.
Hello, Board of Appeals. Thank you for your time. According to many websites and studies, there's enough proof that cell towers cause health issues to all living beings. Study results may vary depending on who pays for the study. Dr. Robert Bernha, president of the American Academy of Environmental Medicine, states that people who live near cell towers and antennas are in jeopardy. And in closing, I have a Native American Indian quote: "Only when the last tree has been cut down, the last fish has been caught, and the last stream poisoned, will we realize we cannot eat money." Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Welcome back.
Thank you. Hello, board members and President Swig. My name is Michael Levesque. I live in San Francisco. Under the irradiation of 4G and soon 5G, it is harmful to my health. Imagine a few hundred, a few thousand San Franciscans having similar health problems. If something isn't done to protect us, this will become a legally prohibited assault against us and a dangerous and avoidable tragedy. As explained to you by Ron Radner's legal briefs and testimony tonight, the City and County of San Francisco has the right and responsibility to protect the health and safety of its citizens and to reject the falsely claimed overreaching powers of the FCC. This was also explained in a 2298 Pacific appeal brief that was originally scheduled tonight until Verizon withdrew its cell tower permit. Of greatest importance to this board, as it awaits an updated wireless risk report from the Health Department, is to act upon the established confirmation by all involved parties, including the wireless manufacturers, that EMF RF radiation is a pollutant, as described by the Environmental Protection Agency, the FDA, and the WHO. A map of San Francisco tower locations provides graphic evidence of the overwhelming concentration of microwave pollution, with each company vying
Overhead, please.
for wireless coverage. The amount of pollution increases more and more each day, and this is nonsense. Why would we want each house to be painted in lead paint because of salt air? Why would we want each home to have heat ducts surrounded with asbestos? No, we seek to reduce pollutants, not increase the density and harmful effects, until even the healthiest of us fall victim to disease. The board has been railroaded by fear and faulty assumptions that the wireless industry has a monopoly of legal authority. The board wrongly says that Article 25 in the 1996 Telecommunications Act preempt the precautionary principle. But San Francisco's legal right and responsibility to protect the health and safety of its citizens cannot be preempted by admitted wireless pollution endangering life. Disregarding the precautionary principle places the board under legal liability and acceding to the demands of the wireless companies. When untested experimental 5G is unleashed and becomes manifest throughout the city, legal action for extreme and immediate harm will appear. The precautionary principle ordinance, wisely enacted, protects the environmental health and wealth of San Francisco. Now is the time to come to the aid of the citizens of San Francisco and reject another cell tower at 2620 Laguna Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Welcome back as well.
Thousands of Swiss citizens took to the streets en masse this last Sunday to say no to 5G. Hong Kong protesters have taken down their 5G antenna light poles, much like those being erected throughout San Francisco, despite mounting pushback. During our American Revolution, Patrick Henry cried, "Give me liberty or give me death." Freedom and privacy go hand in hand. We knew when we organized against the utility smart meter and got an opt-out program that the meter had nothing to do with self-monitoring electric and gas usage. We knew the meter would be central to the Internet of Things. Everything we buy will be embedded with chips that transmit increasing amounts of data about us directly to the smart meter and onto company headquarters via 5G. In fact, PG&E is applied to become a tech company. Face recognition is banned here in San Francisco, but for how long? Much of the rest of the country already has it. How long before social credit scores come to here to America as this country becomes more tightly ruled by technology and the fascist corpocracy behind it? Our democracy is almost a sham. The telecom industry, tightly woven within our military-industrial complex, lobbies generously and extensively, offers illicit favors and other shenanigans to expend its multi-trillion-dollar empire. Its path is clearly spelled out in 2298 Pacific Light Bowl appeal brief that was dismissed by Verizon. They didn't want their ugliness spelled out so clearly, so they shushed it. They shushed 5G with intimidation, fears of litigation, actual litigation, and continued lies about the safety of EMF. This 5G milliwave frequency was developed by the military for crowd control. Officially called the active denial system, it can be intentionally turned up to cause irreparable physical harm. Soon there will be an exodus from San Francisco to counties and towns that have banned residential 5G. Cities come and cities go. Empires fall. Could 5G be the beginning of the end of Western civilization? A compromised, sick population does not lead to a cohesive society or to dynamic economic growth. Commissioners, I do believe you fear litigation for yourselves and the city of San Francisco, and therefore you've deferred to the San Francisco Department of Health. I'm hopeful, but yet skeptical, that it will objectively review the many scientific studies presented by Joel Moskowitz without being unduly influenced by industry studies and a bully pulpit from the FCC. President Swig, commissioners, I believe you can be a force for good, for positive change. You have listened more attentively than others. As Darth Vader and Star Wars would say, let the force be with you. Ron Radner has had a deadly car accident and it still has residual brain trauma and will be grossly sensitive to 5G smack in front of his apartment. So please give him this appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
I'm here to support Ron Reitner's appeal because not only the 5G but the 4G is tremendously hazardous when you put antennas that close to people's homes. These antennas were designed with that 1996 federal microwave radiation guideline for macro towers, which are 200 feet in the air and 3,000 or more feet away. So we're going to take a little step down memory lane so you can understand the intention, the congressional intent in the writing of the 1996 TCA, and understand that the city of San Francisco has the power to lower the power output from these towers. There is not a single standard. There is the ability for San Francisco to uphold its local values. That's what the TCA says. What you see here, it can be found at mystreetmychoice.com. It's on the press and downloads page. I recommend you go there because you will also find a link to this 2298 Pacific Avenue brief Very well done. 64 pages, over 140 pages of citations. Everybody can read it there because it's no longer available on your website, surprisingly. It's the public record. It should be available to everyone, but we preserved it and put it there. So what do you see here? You see on the left-hand column what I call the penultimate version of the bill. That's what existed in 1995. It took these lobbyists 2 or 3 years to write this bill. And on the right-hand side, you see the 1996 version, the one that Mr. Clinton signed, President Clinton signed in February of 1996. What you're going to find out when you look at the citing clause, they're pretty similar in every respect, except there's a missing word. The conclusion is, local cities never had the operations of cell phone towers preempted from their powers. That is the truth. Why do we know that? When you look on the left, you can say, what we want to do here is an effective policy regarding state and local regulation of the placement, construction, modification, or operation of facilities for the provision of commercial mobile services. That was the wish list. They wanted all 4. They didn't get that. Our senators talked. That wasn't acceptable. There was a conference report that was already published that explains the reasoning why, when they signed the bill, operations was taken out of that list. So when you read, now it says, nothing in this act shall limit or affect the authority of a state or local government. It all remains with you, except for decisions regarding placement, construction, and modification of a cell phone tower. Hey, we can't keep you from picking a spot. We can't keep you from building it. We can't keep you from coming back and changing it. But when it's time to turn it on, you bet we can set a power limit because we need to protect our people. Article 1, Section 1 of the California Constitution. Our elected representatives, your city council members, must uphold that and must protect our safety and privacy. You have to do that by turning the power way down. And what I'm going to show you here is that everybody makes a mistake when they read this bill. Paragraph 4 is really saying, you know what? No state or local government can regulate the placement, construction, or modification.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
But you can regulate
Thank
the
you,
operations, and you don't have to consider the RF effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay, commissioners, this matter is submitted.
Who wants to start?
Public record?
Sure.
So, as sympathetic as I am to everything that was presented here, I see no, the bar for a rehearing is significantly high, and I heard no new information other than the information that was presented before. And many of you in the audience know how sympathetic I am to the positions. I would like, however, Mr. Russi, I'm sorry, I'm going to put you on the spot, and you may choose not to respond. Can you provide guidance on our ability or and we're not going to do it because, I feel that the bars have not been met, but the whole issue of precautionary principle, I believe you sent us some guidance on precautionary principle invoking versus Article 25, which is the core of why we couldn't do why we did what we did in the first place a few weeks ago. So can you elaborate on precautionary principle, the legal aspect, and in the context of overriding an Article 25? And if you're not prepared to do so, I understand because it's a tough one.
Yeah, I don't think that I'm prepared to do so at this time.
All right. So the bar is very high. I would again encourage you with all this information to call the head of the Department of Health and encourage him and your legislative leaders to hear you and make the changes that will potentially override what you're protesting. Anybody else before we make a motion?
I just want to thank the members of the public that have come up passionately for this week after week after week. We do hear you. Evidently, you hear some of the requests that we've been asking. What's before us tonight is a rehearing request. And as the president said, the bar for rehearing is quite high. And so if there was something that would cause manifest injustice, that is the bar for rehearing. Nothing that was brought before this board was not available at the past hearing, so there is no manifest injustice.
Based on your comments, I would move to deny the rehearing request on the ground that there was not a showing of new or different material facts or circumstances and that there is no manifest injustice.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Santacana to deny the request on the basis that there's no new material evidence or manifest injustice. On that motion, Commissioner Honda?
Aye.
President Swig?
Aye.
Okay, so the request is denied 3-0. And so will you be, and so at this point, Commissioner Santacana is excusing himself? So, thank you. Yeah, she's right up.
We got,
Ann's coming in. Have a good one, brother.
Just bear with us one moment.
you. We have shifting Sams.
Not very happy. Not very happy.
I called it to her attention. We are letting it go through, but I told her it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to hide.
Madam Vice President?
Okay, welcome Vice President Lazarus. Okay.